Right. Well, hello everybody and welcome. It's Public Eye and my name is Fumi. Today we're asking a question that Lagosians ask maybe once or twice a year, and that is Lagos sinking? Because at those times, it seems like the canoes have to come out because of the flooding that happens across the states, across the city itself. Now, how much of this is a local problem and how much of it is a global problem, you want to ask? Well, we all know by now how much global warming, carbon emission, and all of that has contributed to changing climatic conditions around the world. For Nigeria and especially Africa, we don't even contribute that much to the wahala, as they say. However, we suffer a lot. Many parts of the country suffer in various ways, but Lagos in particular, because it lies low, if the flooding continues, if the rains are high, and the carbon emission around the world is the way it is, there's projection that the city might be underwater in a few decades. Well, people like me can say, maybe I won't be here at that time, not my problem, but I know for all of you, it's your problem. You're young enough for it to be your problem. So, in terms of solving the problem, locally, it has appeared that the people who don't contribute that much to the problems suffer the most for it. What I mean is that solutions like VGC in the past, or even Eco-Atlantic, seem to target poorer people because they are left with slums where you have the nicer looking cities. However, nobody is really getting away with anything. Can we build a future where everyone, regardless of status, across the world, especially in our city, we can save the state and have a situation where Lagos stays afloat? Because at the end of the day, Eco is for sure. We'll consider all of this right after the break.
Climate change is a significant threat to the world's coastal regions, and Lagos is no exception. The city's coastline is eroding at an alarming rate, and rising sea levels pose a significant threat to the city's infrastructure, economy, and residents.
Canal tó wà lẹ́yìn yẹn ni àgbàrá máa ń ya wọlé, but tí òjò yẹn bá rọ̀, tí ò stop, ó lè gbá wájú wọlé.
Kójò rọ̀ láti àárọ̀ dalẹ́, ó máa dàbí pé tí òjò yóò bá lọ stop kó lè gbélé lọ.
The city's poor drainage systems and coastal erosion are exacerbating the problem, with the city sinking by about 2.4 centimeters per year. The consequences of this could be dire, with many parts of the city becoming uninhabitable in the coming years.
It is really very bad. We get stuff like whenever there's a rain, area is always flooded because there is no a gutter or a drainage system for it.
Tẹ́lẹ̀ ó worst gan, ó bad gan, but láti last year tán ti wá kó canal yẹn, tán dẹ̀ tún ti ṣe títì yẹn, so kò worse, ó better ju ti tẹ́lẹ̀ lọ.
Then sometimes if the flooding is very heavy, you have to do total evacuation, move from that area to another area.
However, there are ways to prevent the sinking, improving drainage systems, and implementing effective coastal erosion management strategies.
Right, Public Eye it is, and we are starting a conversation on the environment, specifically asking the question, is Lagos sinking? We know the global implications. How's about the local implications? This is a topic that's close to my heart because a few people know that I study geography and I'm interested in human behavior based on environmental determinism. So you are going to allow me to be a geek. on this topic. And I've got the right persons to start that conversation with. Dr. Olusegun Adeaga is Associate Professor and Faculty Member of the Department of Geography at the University of Lagos here. He's also specialized in particular in the areas of hydrology and water resource. Over the years, he has conducted many researches in the area of hydrology, one of which he has entitled Assessments of Shoreline Change Along the Coast of Lagos. Correct when I say this is the man to start the conversation with, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. Welcome him now.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Adeaga. Now, I know they know when to stop. Dr. Adeaga.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with a very simple question. Is Lagos sinking?
Sure.
No.
Sure.
When I hear it, it sounds far-fetched. You know, you hear it and you're thinking, yeah, these people have come again. But what are the data? What are the indications? How do we know that Lagos might actually be sinking?
Let me start by saying this. If you drive down Shoki, you see some houses bending like this. Good structures, quite right. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they stand still. Because we, for example, that's one indication. Another, one thing we need to know is this. The rate at which we are pumping out the groundwater, bearing in mind that Lagos is on young sedimentary rock. So by the time you pump this water out that has been there for ages, nothing to fill it up, and that means that there's going to be a compression because there's an overload, overburden. Going by the structures that we are now putting on these overburdened young plate, definitely you must know that something is happening that there is a great pressure on the landform, and by so doing, even considering every other thing that is happening, wetland lords and everything, we definitely know that Lagos is sinking.
Wait, this is the thing. I'm going to ask you, in fact, beg you today to make it talk to us like we are 5 years old. Because when it comes to environment issues, scientists and everybody else always seem, all over the world, to not want to agree with one another.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that this is one of the most important issues of our time. But everybody has taken a far polarizing situation. Because what you have said now, I understand when you say it's young sedimentary rock and all of that, you know what I mean? It means that it's not that old so maybe it's like if you have like a baby, it cannot hold you well.
It's a baby.
Yes, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
The kind of
structure Lagos, mostly part of Lagos is on, is a baby. It's baby rock. It's baby rock.
So how much can it take, and how much is too much? And when you say the structures we are putting on it, what do you mean? Lagos has been here since now.
Lagos has been here since, but if you go back in history, Lagos is a fishing town. It started as a fishing town. Nobody expects all this kind of structure, except places like Agege and Co that are more settled compared to places like Victoria. Most part of Victoria Island, the recent of it, they were sandfilled. From Apapa, Victoria, all those places are less than 3 meters above the sea level. And these are the places that you are putting the kind of structure that your concrete structure that you have in Agege, you are putting it there.
Wait, so let us spell things properly. So you're talking about areas from, because you mentioned Oworo the other time, so it's like all that borderline area, across Makoko, then all the way to Victoria Island. Does it include Ikoyi?
Yes,
Ikoyi, Lekki, and all of those areas are not stable 3 meters.
They
What
are,
does
they
3
are
meters?
less stable.
So when you say 3 meters above sea level, that means if this is the sea,
Yes,
the height is not that much.
Yes, in
So
very true sense.
it means that the height, so I mean, if that is the case, what's going to stop? Why would that change? You know, the 3 meters
It
will
will
stay the
change
3
because
meters.
the 3 meters that we are talking about in the real sense of it composed of so many things. For example, for your soils, you have the pores. For the pores, you have where water should stay, you have where air should be. Now, one of the deadly things that we are doing to one another is that almost every house in Lagos now has borehole. Because the water that is part of the stability of this landform, we are withdrawing it at a rate that nobody can actually estimate the rate now. Because almost every household has borehole. Government need to regulate. Because Lagos have lost the first aquifer. For human consumption, we have lost it.
Let me, so the first aquifer is the first body of water.
The first
yes,
body of rock that hold water.
that holds water, yes.
Yes, underneath.
So we've lost.
We've lost it.
What is now there? Because
When
I know
say
that
we've
nature
lost
doesn't
it,
like.
We've lost it in the sense that it's not good. The water at that level now is not good for human consumption again because we have loaded it with pollutants. All those wastage water, wastage industrial waste, waste from waste being dumping it down. So most times we are actually tapping from the second aquifer. That means that the overburden of the second aquifer, whether we like it or because there is I would like to put it, between the two aquifers, for example, there is another solid part that is called overburden. It means that by the time you now draw water, you are taking water underneath me. There's nothing filling that place up. That means that the water level there is no more saturated. It's no more at a saturated level.
Yeah.
Definitely, the space has to be filled. What will be filled? The overburden will have to rest on something.
Exactly. So the top one will come down.
Yes.
That means that all of you that are on top of it will go down a little.
Yes.
I see. And as it continues to go down, you continue to go down.
And that's why, Lagos State Water Corporation lost some wells. Because around Victoria Island, the reason being that those wells now, they lost it due to the saltwater intrusion. The freshwater level has to be higher so that salt water will not come in. Salt water from the ocean will not come into it. Now that the water level the freshwater level has gone low, that gave room for the salt water now to now
Is that why the
penetrate.
water in Lekki and all those places is like it is?
Yes.
Oh, see. Does anybody know what the water is like there? The water comes out brown. It tastes different. You can't drink it. And it itches. Your skin itches. It smells too. And I do have a
If you
medical...
want to, in fact, it's a very serious case.
I mean, I don't like the look on your face. You are looking at us like you people don't know you are in trouble when you are just sitting down there calmly. Are we in that much trouble?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
care is not taken.
if care is not taken. So, I mean, you've identified a few things that everybody sits on. Because usually when you use the word environment, it's important to bring it home. So we understand now why we have some of those buildings already physically, you can see it in them. We understand now why, there's a water issue. In fact, there's a related health issue because I have a friend who works in healthcare and they say they can trace, the higher occurrence of certain diseases that have water relativeness being higher in Victoria Island through to Lekki than in other parts of Lagos. I'm specific now around the flooding. You see sometimes some communities in Lagos, you see people use canoe. There was nowhere to walk.
When Morocco was Morocco, did you visit the place? In your sitting room, you can catch fishes now. When Morocco was Morocco, before they demolished the place. Because if it rained in Lagos for 2 hours, for Morocco for 2 weeks, they are still collecting water from their homes.
Right. I mean, we're still going to go to, because I'm hanging on to what you said about if we don't do something, because it implies that we can do something. You don't seem convinced that we can do something. We can stop.
That's what science is saying. Do something.
That we can do
to
something.
secure.
Yeah.
Because it's like you are in a tropical world. Malaria fever is a normal thing. If I move to a floodplain, if I move to a place that is young, if I'm developing, I must know that I will definitely be receiving flood.
Right.
Let me shock you. The rain intensity that we are having since 2008 down, the intensity is not as much as what it used to be in the 60s and 70s, if you analyze the data. But the effect of flood has increased, not because of the intensity that have changed, but because of the anthropogenic activities. Human activities.
Oh, yes. So man-made activities.
It's man-made activities.
Yeah, okay.
So if
what certain man-made activities specifically?
One major thing is blockage of the channel. Because the transfer rate now of
what channels are blocked in Lagos? I can understand now from what you have explained, to start with in terms of the dredging and building new cities. I mean, you don't want to call names, but you're calling, starting from VGC to Eco Atlantic and all of that. Apparently, those themselves were supposed to be solutions. Eco Atlantic was supposed to be a solution to the erosion of the Bar Beach.
It's a mistake.
That was not what the expert studies
The expert studies said 25 years design year. If you check the record very well, it's a 25-year design year project. And when you create a seawall as a defense, the seawall will definitely protect that section. It will cause erosion at the other section. Downstream, it will be eroded parts.
Right.
We have the major drainage channel in Lagos, that is the lagoon, to carry our water. But you still have secondary, you still have tertiary. How many houses, we don't really have any central drainage system in Lagos, because all these built up areas need to have a central channel through which all houses will be connected and all waste will be carried out to a secondary drain.
So I want to summarize this particular conversation so I can bring other people in. From what I've heard you say so far, there are several planning, issues. One of which is, through the years, our solutions to stemming erosion for water from the ocean, from the seas, has been to build, to hold it back. However, if you hold it back in one place, because that's how nature works, it's going to, you will pay for it in another place. It's like if you have a gutter here and you clear this part, the water is still there, you don't clear that part, maybe it will still come back and meet you. That's what it is. That's number one. Number two is the infrastructure issues around water, public water in Lagos. Because everybody is their own landlord and digging holes, they contribute to it. What happens is that not only, are you making the soil, the floor, which is holding us unstable, even the water you are drinking is going to cause you serious health issues, because you remove the top layer, you are digging into the next one, it becomes unstable, the top layer will leak anyway into what you are drinking. So that's a second issue. The third issue now is even about waste management and all of that. Okay, I wanted it to be clear so that everybody understands the different conversations, the different levels of conversation, so we can see it affects everybody, because sometimes when you talk about it, it's like, only the people in Makoko are affected. So for example, if I live in VI, or in Eco Atlantic, and at least there's no water coming into my house, but the water I'm drinking is compromised.
Sure.
So all that pure water, pure.
Go pure, go.
Chai.
Nobody's taking pure water.
So whether it is from the bottle or the sachet.
No, we are taking addictive.
All of us are just
pure.
drinking
We are taking addictive.
poison.
There's no pure water.
All right.
Anywhere.
No pure water anywhere.
We are taking addictive.
Right. I'm going to take a break because I think we should all think about it. And as I said earlier, I would like for all of us here to think about the implications down the line, that if the water you are drinking is impure, the soil you are building your homes is unstable, the drainages are blocked. So in a malaria zone, for example, all of them will lay new eggs. And what will happen is that it doesn't matter how much work is being done, they will also begin to develop higher immunity to whatever you are doing. You develop new strains who have more power to fight you back. So generally, we're at war with ourselves. Yes. Let's take a break.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I knew your dirty little secret.
This was another lifetime. Before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies. Isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.
Sad about what we're talking about because it seems like just a word, but it's not a word. It kind of goes to how we live, how we will continue to live, and how well we will be. Because we're talking about Lagos and its environment, but it's not just Lagos. It seems that it affects very, very many other states around Lagos, and in essence affects Nigeria. From some reports, it affects neighboring countries too, because we don't live in a vacuum as human beings. I'm not going to do this by myself. Joining myself and Dr. Adeaga would be Mr. Deji Akipelu. I'll start with you. Mr. Deji Akipelu. Mr. Akipelu is a co-founder of Rethinking Cities. It's an environmental advocacy. He's a documentary maker. I feel it's in my business, but he has specialized particularly in the area of environment advocacy. Rethinking Cities itself is a platform that provides solutions in the area of natural hazards, pollution, leak of clean water, sanitation, and other critical problems of settlements that plague our society today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Finally, at the end of the day, somebody is building all of these things too now, and they have a body. Architects, I know that people will do that in Nigeria, but would you rather me call you Mr.?
Biodu is fine.
Biodu is fine. Thank you. So Mr. Biodu Fatuyi is the Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Lagos chapter. Thank you for joining us. Dare I say, I like the way you have constructed your filler.
I try to keep the local content.
Exactly. Gentlemen and ladies, I'm also a lady here. Let me start with you, Deji. How severe, how how severe is the problem? Because before we came from the break, we had people telling us that, this is not a VI thing, that if you go to Abule Egba, if you go to all of those places that are not even near the oceans, that, people are, water, when it rains, water rises above people's fences and gates.
Yeah. We're in a very severe situation. So in Lagos, if it rains now, everybody is scared. Like, right now it's a conscious thing. Like the last 3 days, it's rained overnight. Like, as I'm about to go out, just get ready. Everywhere is going to be flooded. We're in a very, very severe situation. There's a study on Adeniji Adele Estate that I did once. Adeniji Adele Estate was built in the 80s. That was, it was by Alhaji Lateef Jakonde. And that was like the Lekki one of then. Adeniji Adele Estate, as we speak, has been submerged. So people can't live there anymore. That was in the 80s. It clearly tells you that the same thing that has happened to Adeniji Adele that was built in the 80s is what will probably happen to the Lekki of today because of the human activities that we have that is going on. We are building artificial islands everywhere, this great estate. Around Adeniji Adele Estate, there's this new luxury estate that you have that was built, and that changed the course of the flow of water from the Atlantic Ocean into that estate. So this is where we are right now, like whatever you are trying to glamorize, like I'm in Lekki or I'm in Ikoyi, it's just going to take, in a few years, all these things is just going to disappear. This is just our response to people are coming into the city of Lagos, which I personally don't have a problem with. It's just about planning for the people. But that's coming in of people into the city of Lagos is putting pressure on the housing demand. And the way we are responding to it is now by doing sand filling, building, having our own water. Government is no longer providing you water. You're now building your own boreholes. Waste management system, a big question mark. So it's a very serious situation. Things are going to change, and it's not looking good.
It's not looking good. We'll come back because I'm very fascinated by the concept of rethinking cities.
Yeah.
Because that's how it is, but that's not how it needs to be. It needs to continue to be. It could be different. All right, now, Abiodun, architect, why do we build this way now? Because he mentioned that Adeniji Adele, reports show that even like VGC, there are cracks in buildings. There are buildings that have tilted, some that have sunk. The same thing happened in Dolphin Estates. It seems like from one to the other, this kind of pattern repeats itself. Why do we build the way we do?
Okay, so I would start from a little perspective that we have shared here. Lagos is a coastal area. It will require specialists to actually build in this kind of area. You would see that there are other countries that are also coastal countries like Venice, where people live there. And the government is quite critical here, to bring up policies that will help in the proper documentation and construction of buildings. Now, the kind of foundations that you will use in Lagos, you can't use those kind of foundations in Abuja, for example, because the soil texture is different. Doctor made a comment earlier talking about the boreholes, and that's really opened my eye to a huge danger. If the government starts supplying water and then we have a proper water system, it will reduce everybody having to dig boreholes. That is a potential danger. That also begins to affect foundations. Now, when you're talking about construction of buildings, you start from the substructure. That is what you build in the ground. There are various types of foundations, depending on the result of the soil testing that comes out, which is what we must start with when we are talking about construction. Right. You get to a site, you must first of all do a soil test to determine the kind of soil and the strength of the soil and the kind of foundation.
Doesn't that happen already?
Yes, it does.
I mean, because a lot of the estates we're even talking about, because from what Deji said earlier, you can see that these are attempted solutions to solve housing problems.
Yes.
Of course, you can argue that a lot of these estates are empty. Because I'm interested, even Banana Island took decades before it started filling up. I remember when we just used to go there and picnic because it was empty, you know, and a lot of the newer ones are empty.
The average Nigerian might not be able to live there because the cost of putting up those buildings vis-a-vis the profit or the ROI on the investment made is already killing the economy. How much is an average Nigerian earning? What's the minimum wage that we are looking at getting vis-a-vis? So when people talk about affordable housing, it's a cliche, because how affordable is this affordable housing?
One of the major problems that we have in the developing world is we are running a race that we do not know the background about. And that means that we are doing rat race. Netherlands, they say God creates the world, but it's man that creates Netherlands. Netherlands really was below the sea level. But the way they built Netherlands, if there should be any rain, within the next 15 minutes, everything is pumped back into the ocean. Nobody says don't build on wetlands. But when you are building on wetlands, you must have something about at the back of your mind. You have to retrain that wetland. How do you retrain the mind of a wetland? One problem we have is that we don't know that nature has brain, river has brain. You put 28 meters concrete down, the water that is supposed to be there, don't let me lie to you, will come back one day. We were at around Lokoja. When we carry out some analysis on the water molecule, one of the water molecule is 500 years old. Rivers has brain.
The water molecule is over 500 years.
Yes.
Rivers have brain. But our forefathers always said things like this, didn't they?
Rivers have brain. Don't think you have taken over.
You know, the younger people are laughing at you.
It has brain.
Wait, you are a scientist. You are telling us that rivers have brain.
It has brain. It's a living being. You might not believe it. So before you do anything, you need to first of all understand the cause of that river. Before you build on wetlands, you need to understand the functionality of that wetland. All you need to do, if you want to take over the wetland, is you put up a structure that will mimic the functionality of the wetland.
Yeah. So you don't go against nature.
You don't go.
So you work with it.
But with that, the wetland will now have a rethinking about its existence. One major thing that we have mixed is this. We have mixed our traditional way of thinking. Science makes you to go down to your traditional way of thinking and now modernize it. Nobody is saying you cannot build on wetlands. No. Nobody is saying, because the master plan that we are talking about today cannot fit in. I was discussing last week with somebody. You are saying they should go and repair refineries in Port Harcourt. What year was those refineries built? Where are those parts? If government said they spent billions and at the end of the day the refinery doesn't work for 2 months, we say, hey, they have embezzled money, they have done this. Then we are the ones that are fools. There are modern day taught modular refineries. It's in the same way. Let them bring out a master plan. The master plan was structured in such a way for sewage and drainage to be for it's a structured engineering work that never works with nature.
Right.
So, in essence, we are in a mega city thought. In essence, Lagos is commercial. Lagos cannot be planned, cannot be planned for Lagosians alone. No, it's not possible again. It's not possible. Lagos will be planned for the entire world. But what we are saying is, whatever Lagos City want to adopt from the up countries, they must localize it.
Yeah, it must work in the local
Well,
setting.
which I agree with you. It's not like you're not planning Lagos for a global world, but you plan the city to work for the people. And you plan from bottom to top, not from top down.
Yeah.
So that's the essentials of even when you're designing any master plan.
Isn't
you have to go back to the
exactly,
people.
but isn't that a no-brainer? Shouldn't what works, what function, is what is successful.
Yes.
You know, all the cities of the world, you cannot build a Dubai in Lagos because Lagos is not Dubai. You cannot, Dubai never wanted to build a Lagos in Dubai.
No.
You cannot build a Netherlands in France.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not going to work. The French do not want a Netherlands. So this speaks to cultural confidence also, which means you have to engage your environment to know how it works, why it works that way, and why you must make it. And that's not at variance with making money. In fact, that's how you make money.
Yeah, it's not. It's
You
making
make
the
more
city,
money.
you make it work, plan with the people. So you
Right.
engage with the people. There is what you call the local intelligence of the people around that area. In fact, Lagos is a very resilient city.
Yes.
Immediately something changes, people
People
adapt.
are, yeah.
So there's a resilience strategy that the people themselves use. So that's why you have to go to a Makoko. And you cannot say that, okay, environmental issues and all of that, blah, blah. You have to go to the people and find out, how do they live? What's your building structure like? What have you used before now? You understand? You gather that local intelligence to design a plan for the people.
Is this not a problem where you don't value the people anyway? I think to make some points that I find sometimes when people understand the larger consequence in the places, the areas they really care about, there may be changes can occur on one hand. Also, we forget that people, when you have government, people play a role also. Sometimes governments will not change because they know that the people themselves, you know, either they can get away with it, one, or that the people themselves will not have the patience to let them do what they need to do. This is not advocating for anyone.
Let me
This
give
is
you an
saying we're all
example
in
there.
it.
Let me
Yes.
give you an example, ma'am. For instance, in Makoko. I don't know if any one of us here remember the Makoko floating school. This was an initiative by architect Kunle Adeyemi, I think.
Yeah.
Kunle Adeyemi. And he's done such in Netherlands. He's done it in Italy. And he's still functioning now. He's thought, I'm in Nigerian. People are in Makoko. These children do not go to schools. They walk in water to get to their houses. If anybody has been to Makoko, it's a very sad...
Actually, you see that place, not only did I go to school by there, going back to local knowledge, it's so important that you use that example.
Yes.
You know, I went to school around there.
So the floating school...
On the sawmill.
Yes.
And I adopted that school before my friend Kunle took over the school.
Awesome. So you know what I'm talking about.
The point I want to make here is what both of them said earlier. The people of Makoko know what they are doing. And don't allow anybody be spokesperson for the people. They know what they are doing. One of the very, very first things that I learned in Makoko was the children in Makoko were more at home on boats than on land. For them, coming to school on land is the equivalent of putting the children on land on boats. So the development, any development that was desired, development in quotes in that area, should focus. And Kunle did a great thing.
Awesome.
But I'm talking now generally about Makoko, should focus on what the real issue. The real issue was the same issue that VI has. Makoko has the same issue that don't be going there and saying you are superior to them and you want to teach them stuff. They're not stupid. The problem they had there was sanitation, just like VI.
Yeah.
They needed drainage parts. They needed clean water. If you sorted out those problems, the people would have been able to do the things also that they are doing, you know, because those things are complex. I'm glad to use that example. Once again, I repeat, what Kunle did there was great. But I know how that place became the poster child for everybody to take pictures about poverty and stupidity. Whereas the place functioned, but what it didn't have is what VI2 doesn't have till today.
So that's where media comes in here.
Exactly.
The narrative we are giving to the public.
So that's I given it before. I gave it in 2008. I gave it in 2009. I'm giving it
publicity.
again today, so that a new generation of people would hear it. That sort of thing. They told me you dealt with the children. They were afraid on land because all their own existence was on water, and they knew what they were doing. What they needed, like VI, and I repeat, VI is still like that. I live in VI. And what I wanted to say to people is that sometimes you have to bring it home in the ways they understand. Yeah. The fact that we don't have clean water across the city, including VI, is directly linked to things like infertility in women. Because the water you have is poisoned. All the pure water, whether it is in the bottle, which is put in plastic bottles, where silicone leaks into the water, and silicone and other such elements disrupt the hormonal system. Because it disrupts the hormonal system, it affects the reproductive system of many women and men too. So it's not an accident that men are not performing as well as they used to do. It's not an accident that women are having much more problem to have fruit of the womb. I know how much we value children here. It's not an accident. There's a direct correlation between all of that. Also picture in your mind that every time you feed your baby, your newborn baby, water, you are poisoning a baby you've just birthed. Wow. Also imagine that in the breast milk, you have also affected the hormones in the breast milk and the protective whatever in the breast milk. So you are poisoning the baby you have just birthed. That's how we have to see it. And that solution cannot come from you digging a borehole. So it affects the person living in VI and the person living in Makoko exactly the same way. Let me now bring it even further. It is not an accident that averagely women weigh more, and men too, than they did before. It is the same disruption of your hormones and your gut, the bacteria that live in the gut. That is not an accident. That's why you have that's part of why you have higher incidence of obesity. He did also make a point that I think is valuable. We should separate education from schooling.
Yes.
You can school, people can go to school to be educated, but you can educate people through life using many different formats, including one like this, public eye. Talk about shopping. I'm a woman. When I was growing up, when you go to the market, you take your bag. With you. And those bags usually are woven. So they are sustainable. They are from nature.
Exactly.
I know in the UK, for example, the time when they started using nylon bag. And after a while, they reversed. And I like what they did, for example. They didn't tell you not to take nylon bag. You will pay for it. Yeah. When I get to the supermarket and say, pay 50, I'm like, for what it had. And then
what happened to me too. I had to buy it.
Start carrying bags, soft bag, fold it inside your bag.
Yeah, but
so when I bought it, I got to my room, I removed my property and folded the nylon and kept it in the same place. I didn't throw it away.
What doctors said that is very important going forward, because I see a lot of finger pointing in a society where all of us are in trouble.
Exactly.
If you are inside a boat and there is hole in it and it is sinking, it is not the time to be saying that person is the one that caused it, because all of you will sink.
Absolutely.
It is also true that at least me, I'm old enough to see activists become powerful and do exactly the same thing. That's not to say they are bad people. Life is. But in little things, I would like to advocate, because how I start to notice it is in people at every stage in their life. How do you talk to or take the opinion of the person you consider less than you?
No.
So even in your house, as head of the house, or tail of the house, or middle of the house, how much do you value the opinion and suggestions and contribution of everybody else inside your own home? Never mind your compound, never mind your environment in that instance. If we don't change, the government is a reflection of the people. Yeah. You get the government that you are. Not the one you deserve, the one that you already are. I think maybe we should just take a break and think about it, that through the years, what I've seen, and I think all of you are right on that we get what we are. We reproduce ourselves. To change our government, we have to change, because some of you will end up in positions of authority, either in government or in companies or anywhere else. What will we do when we are there? Right after the break.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I didn't dare to live a secret.
This was another lifetime. Before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies. Isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.
All right, this is the time where we take the questions and the comments from the audience, the future of tomorrow, starting today.
So I want to ask, we've talked about the flood, the drainage system, houses blocking where the canals and drainage system is to pass. So I want to ask, if we are going to correct these things, what is going to happen to those houses that are there already? Because mind you, they've put in their resources in building their houses, and they don't expect one day for government to just come and destroy their things in the name of, okay, you are building in the wrong place, drainage is supposed to pass here. They were not told, they don't know, like some of them did not find out the stuff, and even the people that sold the land, the people they gave the houses to build, they did not tell them that this place you are buying your land is not okay. So what will happen to those kind of people? Is the government going to do anything to, even if I thought they are going to be destroying their buildings and all that to make things right, will there be anything to be given to them as a form of consolation and all that?
Ideally, when you want to buy a property, you have to do what we call the land search. You search that there's no encumbrance, there's no government acquisition on it. You search that, okay, this land is actually free for you to purchase it. But if you don't know, and you spent that huge amount of money to build a house on a particular location and you don't know, then it may be difficult for you to argue that even in the court of law.
Okay, for clarity's sake, we talk about flood, we talk about environmental aspect. Now, I want to be clear on this because I've seen people sound-filled water areas and they build on it. We know this is an area where the whole place is flooded with water, and they sound-filled it and they build on it. Now, I want to believe that we have lands and some other people in charge of housing. Now, what is the effect to this, to the society?
Really, sound-filling is not necessarily an evil. It's just understanding, like he has said earlier, how you must channel the normal rate, the normal flow of water from where you want to place your building to where it's supposed to go, without you disturbing the immediate environment.
Right. What are the things that need to work, that need to be there for us to begin to say, yes, now Lagos is a livable mega city that anyone in the world can agree that, yes, we too like that place, we want to come there?
Okay, let me start with drainage. There is a concept now, they call it sustainable urban drainage system. What happened is this: too much of structure have reflected in too much of problem. Now, what happened in thought is this: you need to design a structure in such a way that the structure itself will be livable, environmentally speaking, economically speaking. Who manages it? Who controls it? It is the local entity. You build for them, but it has to be lively for them. There is nothing stop. Most areas in Lagos, let's be sincere with ourselves, were not developed, and they cannot be developed in the real sense of it. But what we can do is this: to harvest the rainwater, rainfall harvesting. There must be a system through which, even through your roofs can be connected to a tank. Are you getting me now? Within the locality. So once the rainfall amount has been reduced on the ground, that means that you have reduced a lot of rainfall that will turn out to be runoff, thereby reducing flooding activities naturally. That's one way. Another way is, I don't see any reason why Lagos State cannot have a central pool where flood water can be pumped up. It happens in big cities. So once the flood water comes, you pump it up, and you start releasing it when the water level in your channels, in your secondary channels, are low. We need also to think about the fact that we are talking about a livable city. We are talking about the need to meet the needs of the people. But as you are meeting the needs of the people, you need to put a concept in place that you will have to meet the need of the nature, because it is nature that serves you and I. If the nature now started giving me carbon dioxide instead of oxygen, we all die.
So what I will say in rounding up, and I thank you, gentlemen, because so many things were discussed, I think it would take us all time to begin to take them in. To round off is to say that in the future, what will be the indices, the things we want to be looking for is that it must be a city where you can get clean water right out of the taps in people's homes. 2, it must be a city where there's drainage connecting streets, all of them must be connecting and draining into some central area. That same water can, as the professor explained, also be used in such a way to refill the parts we have taken water from, because we can turn it around. I'm trying to break. You can recycle. I want to use words that everybody uses. We can harvest. I want to use words that everybody understands. We can recycle. We can harvest that water. And that way, it will also affect the environment. Once you can drink water out of your taps, look at all the things we've talked about, health issues that can be taken care of in that way. Also, we want cities where there are natural areas that are reserved for parks, for wetlands and all of that. We also want cities that builds out, joining other places with transportation to bring us in. Those are the things that anyone that wants to go into government should say they want to do. Those are the things that the people should insist that they do. It is not shiny, shiny things that will kill all of us anyway that we should advocate for. And I really love what you said earlier when you were describing the recycling process of water, because it's already in the language. The way buildings used to be built, there used to be pepe atiaja. Some of those things were already in the culture. They were reservoirs for water, connecting buildings to buildings. If you go to those states, I noticed this in some villages in those states. I was like, what are these things draining out of the They come out of the buildings like this. As you were describing, I was like, poolside, that's what it is. They know what they're doing. Thank you, everybody. To remember, we all really know what we are doing. Let's trust one another and actually really determine to create an environment that's livable for us all to be in. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you, everybody. That's our show. You can always join us. You can send us comments, questions, suggestions, and ideas through all our social media platforms. We'll see you again next time when we come on The Public Eye.